I'm Double J Jeff Jarrett. That's right. That's Jeff Jarrett. E-double-T. That's Double J Jeff Jarrett. And right now, tune in to Turnbuckle Tavern. Now choke on that, Slappy.
It is time to get raw. It is time to get down. It is time for the RAWDOWN, the number one source for all things WWE, right here at the Turnbuckle Tavern. I am your host, Young Anthony of the Independent Epicenter. Joined with me is my co-host, the MVP, Marco of the Chick-fil-A Show. Marco, how the hell are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic on this very warm night here in the Boston area. It's really warm, but it's I don't know, some cool breeze. But, you know, if you ever listen to the Chick-fil-A Show, Sheena definitely hates when people bring up the weather. When someone, yeah, so I just did that on purpose just in case she's listening. So nice. I figure I'd troll her when she listens to the audio version. So yeah, no, it's I'm feeling good, man. It's almost SummerSlam. SummerSlam's
it is
a week away almost. So, I mean, I'm getting excited.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot to be discussed on this episode. Like you said, SummerSlam is next week, and you want to check out next week's episode as we get our SummerSlam predictions. And you mentioned the weather. You know, it's very hot here in New York. You mentioned it's very hot over there. There might be a storm brewing for our champion, Tom, because he, of course, is not here tonight. And it's not going to be a run-in type thing. Tom is not here tonight. So with that being said, we have added Tom into our RAWDOWN group chat. Of course, Tom wasn't in the group chat to begin with. So we added him in. President Sneed is also in the group chat. And right now there is some discourse happening in the group chat to determine whether or not Tom's going to keep his championship. So by the end of this episode, we will know if Tom is still our RAWDOWN champion. If not, we're going to be walking in to the SummerSlam predictions with a vacant championship. Anything could happen. We may finally get the championship back on RAWDOWN. So it's a good time to be a fan of the RAWDOWN, I must say.
Yeah.
But look, we're going to have to wait and see. We got a whole hour ahead of us to figure that out. But until then, we are going to kick off tonight's episode as we always do, and that is with the news that you can find
outside the ropes.
This is Outside the Ropes right here on the Turnbuckle Tavern. Well, you know, we kicked off every episode with a certain bit of news, and I think it's time we just continue that trend. Vince McMahon. It's time to continue the never-ending, it seems, saga of Vince McMahon. And there is a new report that there may be some new levels to this whole Vince, controversy. There's a new party being added into this whole situation. Marco, if you want to kind of break this down a little bit. I didn't even know this was happening until you brought it up in our group chat.
Yeah, so the rumor is HBO Real Sports on HBO, which is it's been a staple on HBO for, God, I don't know how. I mean, as long as HBO's pretty much been in existence, essentially. It's it had hosts before. Brian Gumbel is the host of it. They basically deal with the stories on the off the court or off the field or off the anything outside of sports. That's what they cover. They don't really cover the statistics and the day-to-day sporting events that happen. It's more or less like the stories on the outside. And if you've been with HBO forever and you can look this up on YouTube if you're too young to see. HBO and WWE really don't have the greatest of relationships. Obviously, you had the Andre the Giant biography that happened on there, but that was done in conjunction with WWE. Andre the Giant's likeness is owned by a different company, so WWE doesn't own, like, they kind of license it, or if they need to, put Andre in something, that's that case. But his family owns the rights to Andre the Giant, so we'll get that out of the way. But yeah, if you go off of that track record, yeah, HBO. Not that they put any hit pieces out on the WWE, but they investigate, like, the bad stuff essentially. So I think what show that is. I think it's is it called, like, Last Week Tonight or something like that? It's a weekly news show. They like he did a segment on WWE and their contracts and how they treat their employees, how there's no a union, how there's no insurance. They go on and talk about, one of the things is Jake the Snake, because he had that documentary that DDP did with him, and how basically they crowdfunded his the fans actually got to pull the money together and got Jake the Snake the treatment he needed, and it wasn't from the pockets of the WWE. And it's so there's a lot of stuff that HBO has done specifically on the WWE. Like I said, they're not hit pieces. They're just, attacking the things that aren't really spoken about in the light. And this is going to kind of, fall in line with what we talk about later with the Titus O'Neil promo at the beginning of. So this kind of all, like, almost falls into each other. But yeah, so Real Sports is they're possibly doing a story on the Vince McMahon controversy that's happening right now. So I mean, we talked about it last week. We were surprised that, people were touching on it, but not really investigating it. But, at the same time, with something like this, the explicitness of it, we'll say, I'm not even sure that's a word, but HBO, where it's a cable company, they can do that type of investigation. They can go deep. They can, have that language that needs to be said. They can put those people on that need to be, seen. Whereas, like, on a regular, like, news channel, they might not be able to, investigate that deep and, give that type of raw story the way it should be told. So, yeah, I actually posted in our group chat, there's a video of he did an interview, like, way back in the day with what the heck's his name? I forget the interviewer's name.
Bob Costas.
Bob Costas, yeah, it's a very famous interview he did with Vince McMahon, where, like, Vince, they almost get into a fist fight pretty much towards the end of the and because he questions them on a lot of the the practices of the business, and they talk about the lighthearted stuff, and then they get into the nitty gritty, like you said, how people are treated, the deaths that have happened since in wrestling and stuff like that, and why aren't these guys taking care of a lot more, and all that stuff. So yeah, definitely go on your way and definitely search out Bob Costas, Vince McMahon, if you haven't seen it. But yeah, like I said, I'm pretty like I said, I'm shocked first and foremost that they're actually going to do this, because, like we said last week, like, no one's really even mentioning this happening.
Right.
Like, no one's actually really attacking, like, this head on, and it looks like HBO is the people to do it, essentially.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's just so funny that we literally were saying it last week. Like, there's not a lot of, like, big coverage on this. There's not really a lot of people talking about this. And we were even saying, like, maybe they're just writing it off as, oh, it's just the WWE. It's just Vince McMahon. It's not like, a bigger sports league. Like, you're wearing an NFL shirt right now. I'm wearing an NBA shirt right now. If those commissioners or those presidents were in charge, and they, were involved in this whole scandal, this would definitely be, front page of the New York Times, 100%. But the fact that it's Vince McMahon, and it's almost like not a surprise as bad as it is to say that this is happening. The fact that we're kind of expecting this from Vince, and it's not much of a surprise, that's where it comes to the not getting a lot of coverage right now. This is still an ongoing story, and I watch the news all the time, all the different types of news, and no one's talking about it. It was literally the first day that it happened. That's when all the news platforms were covering it, and then after that, there's been updates to the $12 million. Everything with the female ref that that was kind of brought to light. And of course now this with HBO getting involved. no one has been tackling this story in a consistent manner. And now it seems that at least maybe it won't be like, kind of a week to week thing, like, getting updates. But now it seems there's finally a big platform like HBO Sports getting involved, and they're going to kind of get to the, not, get to the bottom of it, but dig deeper into the story than a lot of other news platforms were doing. Because I was almost like disappointed in the way that people were covering this. I mentioned it last week. You would see like, oh, Vince McMahon involved in a hush money scandal, blah, blah, blah. And then 2 minutes from now, they were like, do you remember when Donald Trump got into a WWE ring? It's like, this is something that really should be taken seriously. But the fact that wrestling is sports entertainment, a lot of people were just writing it off. So with all that being taken into consideration, I am looking forward to seeing what comes about this situation. I think it's also funny that, we were originally going to get a Netflix special about Vince McMahon, and now we're getting an HBO special about Vince McMahon in the worst possible way. So that is also, something to think about. I keep saying it every week, but RAWDOWN's going to keep on covering this story, because just when you think there is nothing else to be brought up, or once you think, that's it, that's all that we're going to get for now, something else comes up. I was actually getting nervous that we weren't going to have anything to talk about. But alas, you bring this to our group chat, and here we are bringing it up. When is this going to end? Like, when are we ever going to see at least like a week without Vince news? Because it seems like every week now there's something else popping up.
Yeah, I honestly don't know. And then, like I said, we're going to talk about it a little bit later when we get into like the inside the ropes thing. But that whole promo that Titus O'Neil cut at the beginning of Raw, that kind of tells you right there. It's like, I don't want to get really into it, but what I got from it was like, hey, don't focus on the outside stuff. Just focus on what's going on the inside. This is your escape. Don't worry about that. So you know what? There might be, judging from that, for me anyway, there might be some more stuff coming out. And the other thing too is really hard is we're not hearing from, because they have NDAs. We're not hearing from the women involved. That's what's really like, that's why you don't hear about it, is there's no one really coming forward and doing that. And I think no one can really come forward until he's not with the company. So I think he has to either step down, or they have to have him take a leave of absence in order for people to come forward. Because I don't think him being attached to the WWE right now will really help the WWE. With people coming forward and saying all this stuff about him, and which they technically can't because they have NDAs. That's the other thing too. It's really hard to do that. But I'm assuming HBO, since they they have a lot of investigative journals and stuff like that. If you have HBO Max, you can definitely go into their archives, and they have tons of different documentaries and different stuff. They had a thing with Vice at one point where they teamed up with Vice, and Vice had a weekly show on there, and they're going, so they have those resources. They can pull some stuff that you haven't been able to see, or no one else can get access to. So I think that's the only reason why we're not really hearing about it just yet, is because no one's really coming forward. And if they do come forward, who's to tell that they're not getting pushed away or getting hush money sent to their accounts to keep quiet. So I don't know, man. It's eerie to say the least. And the other part of that too is get the word, when they say hush money, that term, it sounds like something bad happened and they had to shut that person up. So that's another thing that is kind of alarming, and no one's really jumping on that. It's it's just hush money because he was being he's cheating on his wife and he didn't want his wife to know. But like I said, the term hush money to me seems a little bit more than just cheating on your wife. There could be some other stuff happening. Who knows?
I feel like we haven't even scratched the surface on this issue. There's so many details that haven't really been delved into yet. Like you said, the hush money, what's the exact terminology of that? Everything with John Laurinaitis, I feel like he's kind of just been pushed. That's quiet a little bit, but was there anyone else involved in this? all of the events leading up to this situation with Shane and Stephanie and Triple H. Like, what was the deeper meaning behind this? Because I remember a few episodes ago when we were talking about Stephanie, stepping down for a leave of absence, and we all kind of wrote it off like, it's really nothing. I think it's just taking time off. And I think the following week was when all of this dropped, or at least 2 weeks after that was when everything dropped. So thinking about all of those situations kind of leading up to this, that's another thing to think about. So look, there's only so much that we could break this story down. Follow the RAWDOWN, keep with us, because we are going to continuously give you some more news on this. But until then, we're going to move on to our next topic. Before that, I do want to give an update. Tom is in the group chat. Sneed is we're waiting on some discussion between Tom and President Sneed. So again, we will keep you updated when the time is right and when we get word if we still have a champion. But there is something else that we are still waiting on in the WWE, and that is whether the fact, are we getting a switch in programming for the WWE?
Yes.
Whether or not we are going to be switching from PG to TV 14. So it was reported by Andrew Zarian of the Mat Men podcast, I believe. Apologies if I butchered that. Was that right? All right, whatever.
I believe so.
And he's also a part of the Wrestling Observer as of late. And he reported that the WWE was looking to switch to TV 14 for Monday Night Raw. It was approved by USA. Actually, USA had a representative that leaked the information to Andrew. So he reported it, and it was believed to have been starting yesterday. Monday Night Raw would be TV 14. That was until a few hours, and by a few hours, I mean basically the next day, when it was announced by Andrew that the report was not going to be that TV 14 would be brought into Monday Night Raw. And instead, we would still be getting PG Raw come yesterday.
Yep.
And it would be delayed. And basically, everyone is still saying that it's still expected that Raw becomes TV 14. It's just not known when exactly. So this all happened, of course, as it always does, after last week's episode. So we did not have a chance to really break this down. So I want to ask you, what are your thoughts on TV 14 Raw? We'll start with this. Like, we've seen TV 14 Monday Night Raw before. And of course, this was during a time when I wasn't even born. So a lot of this is, people are expecting to see the Attitude Era. Maybe there's some blood. Maybe there's some curse words that you wouldn't necessarily hear in the PG era. What's your take on all of this? Do you feel that we are getting any true change to the product outside of maybe a few curse words? Do you think that we're going to get, enhanced storylines or anything? Or do you think that this is just, a little switch up and you won't see any real change?
I think there'll be a change. I was actually going to say that the same exact thing you said was, it came out that, last night was supposed to be the night, but I guess it was like a further date. It's going to happen, but it's, they're going to wait a little bit. I'm thinking maybe after SummerSlam, it might change. Madison Square MSG, maybe. Monday Night Raw, maybe. I mean, it might be later than that, but I'm thinking, since everyone jumped the gun, they still have storylines going into SummerSlam, so you can't make a TV 14 switch right away. They got to finish off these. What I'm gonna say is, SummerSlam, you have Brock Lesnar, Roman Reigns. Who's to say that's going to be the beginning of it? What are they going to do? It's supposed to be their final match. Is it going to be blood? It might be. There might be blood. So I think like SummerSlam's like that culmination of like I said, all these storylines in the summer. And I think you can't just jump the gun and, change the rating and expect things to change overnight. I think you have to let everything play out. Like all these storylines have to play out. And then after SummerSlam, then I think you can, jump into the TV 14. New rivalries will start up after SummerSlam. New challengers for the championship, all that type of stuff's gonna happen. I kind of like SummerSlam's kind of like the WrestleMania of the summer, so it's kind of like you have those like bookends to each storyline. Like you have Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, SummerSlam, Survivor Series. Those are the main pay-per-views, and those are when usually new storylines come out after. So I think the TV 14 will happen after that. Whether or not you'll see like a quick change, probably not. I mean, there's really no one. I mean, to play, it's like who on there right now? I mean, besides maybe Kevin Owens, or maybe because Logan Paul joined. Now you have that gateway to get do that type of language you want to do and have those storylines you want to go into. Miz too, possibly. I mean, he can get a little crazy too, as if you've seen that Talking Smack episode with Daniel Bryan. He can go off a little bit. But Seth Rollins, I mean, it's you got to gauge the talent that they have on Raw to deliver that TV 14 message. And right now, I don't think. I mean, off the top of my head, like I said, Becky Lynch might be able to do it too. I think let her drop a few not F bombs, but curse words. I think she can pull that off a little bit. I think it's perfect if say if she loses at SummerSlam to Bianca Belair, she comes on Monday Night Raw and just cuts like a just a promo where she's just like I said, just swearing up a storm, and that'd be pretty awesome. Like she's just completely frustrated at the fact that she can't get this title, and I think that's a good gateway. But we'll see. Who knows? Hopefully, we don't get another Bobby Lashley marrying someone's wife.
Oh God.
We definitely don't need we don't need that to happen.
No, you're definitely right there. I do also think that this change will happen after SummerSlam. I feel like we're in too deep of stories right now to really spring on this new idea of now we could do TV 14. Let's implement this into the storylines. Maybe their thought process is let's get through SummerSlam and then we can kind of readjust. And then we'll be able to slot in some TV 14-esque tendencies. But for now, let's just keep it PG and let's just, carry out what we were doing. I don't know. This report really came out of nowhere. There wasn't a lot of build to it. There wasn't a lot of rumblings. It kind of just was this Monday, TV 14 is going to come. PG era is done. I was very excited about it, but right off the bat, I was very skeptical about it because I knew that there's only so much that you could do, not just with the current product of the WWE, but also in the current climate of the world. The Attitude Era was in a very different time period where a lot of the stuff that you would see was almost the social norm. It was accepted.
Yeah.
A lot of that stuff nowadays would not fly, especially when you're talking about the amount of sponsors that the WWE has, the amount of money that is being brought in. I don't think you would see a lot of that Attitude Era-esque
definitely not.
Content being implemented into the WWE, whether or not they were TV 14. So I knew right then and there that that was not going to be the case. But then, it makes you think, like, what exactly would be changed? Well, you have the language, of course, strong language that you mentioned. People even mentioned maybe we see more blood, which could also be something that technically could be brought in. But ultimately, I think it came down to they wanted to bring in more of that strong language because the AEW does it, and they don't seem to be losing out on a lot of sponsors.
Exactly.
So why can't we? You also start to see it a little bit in, not to bring up a show that we barely talk about, but NXT. They have a lot more, if anything, the most risque product that WWE offers, and it's very low key. Like, you don't really hear about it a lot, but there are some things that are done to appeal to a more younger audience. So in that regard, definitely in the light of TV 14, at least pushing the boundaries as much as they can without officially going TV 14. So what it came down, as I said, to me was just the idea of having stronger language on the programming. But you bring up a really good point. I mean, who really needs that? You know, of course, the promos are what they are. A lot of people, we've been very critical about the way people talk and how it sounds very robotic and all of this stuff. But the fact is, the WWE is not going to change up the scripted promos. That is going to stay.
Yeah.
You know, whatever way you want to look at it, they are still going to be scripting the promos, and that's just the way it is. It's just now they'll be scripted with a few more curse words to make it, you know, a little more appealing, a little more easy on the ears. So when it really boils down to is, I don't know if you would see a lot of change with TV 14 being implemented into the WWE. And it's not to say that it's not needed, but what could you do with a TV 14 rating? You know, I don't know how you feel about it, but for me, you know, a show like AEW isn't really a TV 14 show to me, you know, just because they say shit every now and then.
Yeah. I think it's more the, you know, like TV 14, you know, it could be with like violence too. That's the other thing. Like the
true.
The just the, you know, the acts of violence that happens on a Monday Night Raw. You know, obviously there's, you know, the in-ring stuff, but then you know, when they hit the outside, there might be some weapons used there. You know, there might be, like I said, some language, some, you know, it could be the way the women are dressed too. That's the other thing. Like you see, you know, Becky Lynch has changed her attire drastically. That could be a TV 14 rating. That's really not a PG. Like the way she dresses, her ring attire isn't really PG to say the least.
Right.
It's more TV 14. And you see even Rhea Ripley and, you know, Bianca Belair, their gear is changing. If you notice that, like they're wearing more of like the shorts with like the tights under them. So like, or the nylon or whatever it's called. But yeah, you can see like there are subtle changes happening. And even with Seth Rollins, we're like kind of like that, like lacy Victoria's Secret, like see-through gear he was
such
wearing.
A weird way of putting it.
Yeah, like
you're right.
So like, I mean, you know, some people can see that as like kind of like provocative if you want to use that. Like, you know, there are parents that like, you know, still watch along with their kids. They're like, oh, you know, what is she wearing? Or why is she wearing that? This is supposed to be a children's program, and you know, stuff like it's far from the days of John Cena, you know, with his the colorful shirt and the, you know, the bright colors and stuff like that. That's NXT 2.0, but at the same time, like you said, NXT 2.0 is kind of like Attitude Era light, and like they kind of like they're not really going too deep into the like Attitude Era, but they're giving you those like, you know, kind of like nostalgia feels. Yeah, like Toxic Attraction. Like, come on, like that's literally that stable definitely could have been in the Attitude Era. Like you could have threw those three ladies into the Attitude Era. They would have probably been like they probably would have been bigger than Stone Cold, maybe, or even rivaled if you put them three on TV every week, like on a Raw. Like, come on, that's so like, yeah, I mean, it's already happening. It's just like with Raw, obviously, like you said, there's a lot more, you know, sponsors and moving parts involved with that show. Then I would even say SmackDown. SmackDown's on a cable network. I mean, it's a network show. You know, I think Raw, since it's the staple show for WWE, and it's the one that people know more than anything. I think they have to slowly, you know, if they are going to change it over to TV 14, they have to do it like, you know, in baby steps. They can't just like overhaul everything. Oh, yeah. You know, they can't have Cody coming out with a freaking bruised chest and all that stuff. Like that stuff that would require a TV 14 rating. I don't even think they replayed. Did they even show that on Raw? Do you remember? Like, did they replay? Like, did they even show like his chest on Raw?
I think they did.
They?
Yeah, they definitely.
Oh yeah, they did. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But I mean, I guess in that regard, like, you know, you're not going to have Cody coming out with a, you know, full crimson mask every.
Yeah.
Monday
I mean,
you need to build to it.
For that. I mean, he's pushing for that probably. He's
absolutely.
probably pushing for that TV 14 because if you know one thing, it's roads. The roads must bleed.
Yeah,
And
you saw it in AEW.
man,
You saw it with Dusty. And Dustin
imagine-
got
oh.
his good color too. All of them.
just imagine that Hell in a Cell match, like torn pec, big bruise, and if he was allowed to bleed,
Just
that would have been
blood.
like, just put the belt on him, like right at, like just give him the
Put the belt
just,
on his
just to
torn
put on,
pec.
just put on him, just
Yeah.
don't even he'd be over like anything, like I mean, come on.
One thing I want to mention before we move on, this also has you thinking like, we just mentioned Cody, and for our audio listeners, I threw up a graphic on the screen with MJF. And although it's brought up in a more comedic light, or, just like poking fun, oh, maybe he'll join out at TV 14. It's also something to think about. Like, if they go TV 14, this could entice a lot of wrestlers who, want that kind of unscripted nature that they feel that they get in AEW or other places. Now, the fact that they're turning the tables a little bit and they are allowing for a more TV 14 centric product, this could allow a lot of people to, maybe not jump ship, but at least consider WWE more than they were before, because it's always been WWE is like the cartoon, and they are meant for kids, and especially now in ever since the PG era started in 2008, and maybe we'll see the end of it in 2022. Ever since then, it's always been considered, it's for the kids, blah, blah, blah. And I get that it's for the sponsors and everything, but this has also turned off a lot of wrestling fans to the WWE, which has allowed for the blossoming of companies like AEW. It really makes you think, if we see any change to the product for the WWE on Raw, will we be getting a lot of these either AEW wrestlers or just other wrestlers in general saying, maybe WWE isn't as bad of a platform or of a company product-wise than it has been hyped up to be in the past. Again, this is something that has to be proven. We saw it with Cody. We talked about it with Cody, ever since he was brought in. The fact that, maybe Cody would be a kind of launching point for WWE to be more appealing to AEW superstars wanting to jump ship. Now we have obviously seen that they have passed the test with flying colors. And if you are presented as a big star like Cody was, this may entice you to jump over.
Yep.
So now this may be another test for the WWE. Will a TV 14 centric product be enticing for other talents to want to join the company, whereas in the past the PG era has turned off a lot of these wrestlers? So, it's just a lot of stuff to think about. Of course, we haven't even got the switch yet, so I'm sure once that happens, if it happens, but it probably will, we will again be talking about this subject. That's what I got for now. Before we get into our next topic for Outside the Ropes, I do want to jump into the comments a little bit. We have Tyson on Twitch. He says, Anthony McGill, buddy. Thank you very much, Tyson. Aimbot is in the chat. Thank you for joining us. I saw you were on Fig Night before. I hope you enjoyed Fig Night. And we have a little announcement for Fig Night that I want to bring up before we get into the Outside the Ropes. Austin is with us. Happy belated birthday, Austin. I hope you enjoyed your birthday. Hope everything's well with you. And we also have, where's Tommy Boy? Well, we'll talk about Tommy Boy in a minute, because we do have some updates about Tom. But before we get into that, I do want to say Fig Night had a big show last week with Jeremy Padower, and they had a big show this week, and that is with a big announcement, and that is that Fig Night is doing a new giveaway. You can win the AEW shop exclusive Kenny Omega figure if you watch and comment on Twitch for any of the Turnbuckle Tavern shows. Once again, the AEW's what was it? I just deleted the AEW shop exclusive Kenny Omega. You can win that very coveted figure.
Oh, actually,
if you watch and comment on any of the Turnbuckle Tavern shows on Twitch, it needs to be on Twitch. There's the figure right there.
This guy right
Marco's
here
got it. He's modeling that figure very
Sick
well.
Packaging.
Beautiful packaging, beautiful figure. He's got a great shirt on. Look at that packaging. Definitely.
People don't know this. I hardly talk. Definitely a Kenny Omega mark, even though this is a Raw show, a RAWDOWN. We don't talk AEW too much. Definitely a Kenny Omega mark. And, so
I like Kenny too.
That's super exciting that they're doing this. And rumor is, I know they're probably going to talk about this on the flagship show, but rumor is that maybe coming back sooner than expected. So
yes, that's very true. They just
the
announced
Omega
that today on
Man's
Fightful.
We'll see what happens.
Could happen, but again, if you want to win this Kenny Omega figure, you need to comment and watch any Turnbuckle Tavern show on Twitch. It needs to be on Twitch. That is the only way that you can be considered for this contest. You have 2 weeks, I believe, to get your entries in. And in 2 weeks, I believe that's going to be the first episode of August. That is where you will find out if you won the contest. Next week, they have their 1-year anniversary. The following week is when you will find out if you won the exclusive Kenny Omega figure. I cannot wait to see who finds, who wins this figure. But until then, I hope you enjoy the RAWDOWN. Watch all the shows on Twitch. Make sure to get your entries in. And in 2 weeks, see who wins this Kenny. All right. So before we get back into Outside the Ropes, we do have some breaking news here on the Turnbuckle Tavern's RAWDOWN show. And that is...
You're fired.
You're fired.
I'm sorry. No, I'm kidding. I wish. No. What happened is we got some news in the chat. There was a lot of discourse between Tom and the two bad Chads, one, of course, being President Sneed himself, of whether or not Tom should be stripped of this championship. Because we put in the rules, clear as day, if you are not here, and that by him, I mean Tom, if he is not here, one episode, he is stripped of the championship. He decides to take a day off. He decides to take a day off. He has some reason, which I don't even want to believe. But now he is trying to get with the Chads on their good side. And somehow, some way, President Sneed has allowed one singular pass, for the sole reason that next week is the SummerSlam predictions. So he will be carrying his championship into SummerSlam. And Tom is still, unfortunately, your RAWDOWN champion. I think it's a bullshit decision. I'm not going to lie, but President Sneed always has the final say. But alas, he is still our champion. It sucks, but
I feel confident this time around it's going to come back.
I do too.
We don't have to worry about any shenanigans happening.
Yeah,
and,
it'll be fine. It'll be fine. Yeah. Next week we'll get a new champion, or at least the start towards a new champion, and we'll be fine. But until then, we're talking about next week, and that is our SummerSlam predictions episode, which you should definitely check out when we are live next week, Tuesday, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we're going to be talking about who we believe to win these SummerSlam matches, but there are some people who don't believe in the SummerSlam card, and that is the people who made the damn thing. There are some reports backstage that the higher-ups that be in the WWE, that needs to be trademarked, don't love where this card is placed, where we are in this card. There are about 7 or 8 matches that are confirmed for the SummerSlam card as of right now. Of course, with this being main evented by Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar in a last man standing match for the undisputed WWE Universal Heavyweight Championship. And somehow, some way, with this stacked card of legends like Pat McAfee and Logan Paul, they are not happy with where we are currently with this card. Marco, are you happy with the current SummerSlam card? And are you surprised that the higher-ups that be are not?
I mean, just think running down the card right now, I can see why. Lots of rematches. Obviously Roman Brock, the Usos and the Street Profits, and then you have Becky and Bianca Belair and Bobby Lashley and Theory.
I'm sensing a trend. Yeah.
Yeah, so it definitely is a lot of rematches, easy rematches that you could just put on we'll say give or take, a Raw or SmackDown, maybe have a themed episode of Raw and a themed episode of SmackDown to do these matches. I can see where the frustration is. Also, just I am a listener of the Podfather, who is Conrad Thompson. I do listen to a lot of his podcasts, and you hear a lot of the. There's another event happening that weekend on that Sunday, which is the Ric Flair's final match, and that's a pretty stacked card, to say the least. Like,
What?
it's a really good card, and even what I mean, I don't want to dive into that, but like what he had to do is he literally had to work with everybody. He had to work with like WWE, like to get all these people to do it, because Jeff Jarrett right now is going to be the day before at SummerSlam, in as a referee, and then the next night wrestling. So
we're going to be talking about Jeff Jarrett in a little bit here, but
so like not that like the Ric Flair's final match, that whole card's going to outdo SummerSlam, but that's not the SummerSlam isn't the only big event that weekend, and I think a lot of people see that. I mean, they had to move venues for that Ric Flair his final match. Like, it was at a smaller venue. They had to move it to a larger venue because they ran out of tickets and they sold out even more tickets. So, I mean, and then obviously, Pritchard's involved too, because, Pritchard's with Conrad and they have that. So there's probably a lot of like, there's probably a lot of like, upset people that, kind of like the one hand washes the other, and, I'll scratch, your back, you scratch mine type of thing. And, it probably didn't go their way, essentially. In the sense where, like I said, you have Bruce Pritchard working both with Conrad and with the WWE. So he probably helped with that Ric Flair thing, and to help put that card together. I want to give all the credit to Conrad for doing that, because that's what Jeff Jarrett did on his show. He gave him that, like he said, you put this together. He's like, you had to work with all these different organizations and different schedules and stuff like that. But nonetheless, I think if I'm a WWE higher up, I'll probably say I'm not pleased with SummerSlam as being the blockbuster of the summer, as they used to call it. They really don't do that anymore. But the Ric Flair final match, that looks like it's going to be the blockbuster of the summer, and it's happening right after SummerSlam. So yeah, I'd be pretty pissed too if I was a higher up during that weekend. I mean,
yeah,
it just seems like a lot of people go in there for the Ric Flair thing and not so much SummerSlam.
Yeah. For sure. Look, I got some thoughts on the whole Ric Flair last match show, which we'll be talking about when we talk about Jeff Jarrett. Definitely. Maybe not as positive as you are, Marco, but alas. Look, when we're talking about SummerSlam, though, I could see why people in the back aren't too happy about the show. Because,
gold jacket, green jacket, who gives a shit?
It's always we live by that principle. There are a lot of rematches. I mean, the main event is a rematch of epic proportions.
The whole card's a rematch.
Yeah, I mean, you said it. You got Brock and Roman, with Becky and Bianca, the Usos and the Street Profits, Theory and Lashley. I'm sure Riddle and Seth has happened before. I mean, all these matches are stuff that we have seen already.
Yeah.
Of course, there are some different factors to it, like Becky's new character and the dissension between the Street Profits. But the fact is, I wouldn't be very pleased as a fan to buy the ticket, be part of the stadium event, and kind of have to sit and watch a lot of these rematches. And this could just be a lot of BS on our part, because we've already seen multiple times throughout the year that WWE pay-per-views, premium live events, they have had cards that aren't necessarily, your top tier big superstars, but alas, they still deliver in the end. I always think back to like Backlash and
But I'm not good enough to call Backlash.
Think back to Backlash and Hell in a Cell, all these different shows that the card on paper didn't look great, but it still performed as one of some of the better shows that the WWE put on throughout the year. So it could be a case of this. It definitely could be, it looks like a lot of rematches, but it's still going to be a good show nonetheless.
I agree.
That's kind of what I'm banking on at this point, since we've seen it so many times, that the scenario that, regardless of what it looks like, you're still going to get some good action. There's still some room for some big moments, especially in the main event. I think there's a lot of room for big surprises. So it could be a good show nonetheless. I have a feeling it's going to be a fine show nonetheless.
Yeah.
I'm just very surprised that the people who are booking the show are disappointed in their efforts. I mean, to be fair, there's not a lot that you could really do with the current state of the roster. You're going to be left with a lot of these rematches. So, I mean, what could you really expect? I feel like you can't really. I mean, you could hate on them just because of bad booking, but with what they have, I mean, I think they put on a fine card. Like, this is definitely a pay-per-view top 4 worthy show. It's just, I guess there could have been more. There could have been less rematches. There's a lot of stuff that we're going to see at SummerSlam that we already saw at WrestleMania. So I think you could have done better.
You got to think a lot. I mean, the build to this has been pretty bad as well. If you think about it, obviously we've seen Roman and Brock go back and forth numerous amounts of times, but neither. I mean, we've seen Brock more than we've seen Roman Reigns.
Yeah,
pretty much. Like at this point, like as far as carrying this match, and it just seems like there's no if this is the final match that they're having, the last time ever match or whatever, last man standing, last time ever, last time for the first time, however you want to call it.
That ain't a knee slapper, buddy.
There's no, like I said, there's no build to this match, and obviously we've seen them do battle before, so you don't really need build to it. But where it's SummerSlam, it's the party of the summer, it's the biggest blockbuster of the summer, and like I said, I've been watching like past SummerSlams, mainly the mid-2000 ones, where it's like really gotten where it's like pretty much on the WrestleMania level with the extravagant sets and all that stuff. Like there was one, I think it was like 2000, I forget which one, 2009 or 10, where like they were calling it the blockbuster of the summer, and they legit, the stage was like a marquee. Like every time a match came out, like there was like a match, like their names were on the marquee. It was like, CM Punk versus JBL was on the marquee. Like they treated it like it was this big event. And right now it doesn't seem like it. It seems like it's just like another premium live event. It's like, I mean, and I think like what kind of killed it too, indirectly, was that Money in the Bank move from that giant stadium to the smaller venue. And I think that kind of like, killed it a little bit for some reason. Like indirectly killed it for me anyway. Like as a fan,
definitely part of it for sure.
Yeah, and you gotta think you don't have Charlotte. Charlotte's not on TV anymore as much as people complain about her. They definitely need her back on TV. Bayley's been gone. She hasn't been around. Obviously, the stuff with like Naomi and Sasha Banks, that put a damper on a lot of things. Like
Cena being expected and not being there.
And him not showing up. Like
Orton, all the injuries, really.
Summer of Cody was supposed to be, and Cody getting injured, and like I said this last week. I think all these things factored into what's happening now, and I think for Roman Reigns, I think he was technically supposed to take the summer off. I don't think he's supposed to be like around at all during the summer.
Yep.
Essentially, he may not have been at SummerSlam. It might have been it might have been Cody Rhodes versus Brock Lesnar, or Cody Rhodes versus like Randy Orton or something like that. Like that might have been a totally different avenue they were going to go down. And then obviously all these injuries happened, and like I said, Sasha leaving and Naomi leaving, and Charlotte never coming back from her her honeymoon, pretty much. Like she's been gone forever. Like all these things have to they add up, and sometimes your back gets put to the wall. And then obviously you have like we talked earlier, you have all these allegations happening with Vince, and they're trying to scramble to change like the image, and
we'll make movies.
A lot happened. It doesn't seem like there's a lot happening in the WWE, the walls of the WWE fortress, but there's a lot of changes happening. I think the only way to save SummerSlam is for something crazy has to happen at SummerSlam. Like
I need someone to step up.
And that person might be Theory. He might be the one to really
going A-Town down.
I love that
think,
job.
I mean, yeah, they're gonna have to pull out some craziness if they're really not happy with how this card looks.
I mean, there's so much that went wrong, both both outside the ropes and inside the ring. That with what they had, with the injuries and people not being there and the allegation, everything taken into consideration, you kind of have to go with your reliable options. And you know that when it comes down to it, you're going to get good matches. Although they're rematches, Becky and Bianca are going to put on a great match.
Yep.
Street Profits and Usos going to put on another great match. Theory and Lashley proved that they could put on a great match.
Exactly.
Brock and Roman, when both are healthy, can put on a very, very good match. And now that it's last man standing, it's going to be wild. You have Riddle and Seth, who are going to probably steal the night.
Yep.
Logan Paul, Pat McAfee are known to be surprises in the ring. So I think that will also, definitely deliver. And Liv and Ronda, I'm sure, will be fine too. And, whatever. There will be some moments, I'm sure of. But ultimately, I could see where the frustration lies, both for fans and for the people in the back. But the fact is, I feel like we're giving them too much credit. You booked the show. You could do anything you want. You are in charge. So
Exactly.
You definitely could have seen, Roman's out. Cena's not coming. Orton's injured. Cody's just fucking out for 9 months. Charlotte's not here. Well, maybe we should start trying a little bit with the people that we have and do something interesting. But they decided to go with Plan B, which, although is a more reliable option, is not the option that could have been the best. But I think you can find it from both sides of the coin. You could have done more, but that from what you have seen in the past, you're going to get a good show. So I think that's definitely something to take into consideration. And I guess there's only one way to find out, and that is by tuning into SummerSlam next week. And only one way that you can find out if we enjoyed it, and that is by tuning into the RAWDOWN after SummerSlam, where we find out who is your RAWDOWN champion. It's going to be me. And next week, we will find out how we get there, and that is with our SummerSlam predictions. Marco, do you know what time it is?
I think so.
It is time.
Lightning Round.
It's time for the
Scary.
Lightning Round.
Oh,
30
boy.
seconds to give your thoughts on the wacky world of professional wrestling. So, last night on Raw, we saw a little bit of an interesting segment, something that we wouldn't normally see, and that is, we see a lot, and that is the 24/7 championship changing hands. What was interesting was that there were a few names that won the title that you wouldn't necessarily see hold the championship. One of them being Alexa Bliss. And this, of course, made some fans very angry that she did win this championship. So I'm going to get the timer out. 30 seconds will be on the clock. Marco, it is up to you to tell me if you feel that Alexa Bliss winning the 24/7 championship hurts her status in the WWE, or is it something that we can overlook? And by the way, I do want to mention this is her first championship in 2 years. So with that being said, Marco, you have 30 seconds. Good luck. Your time starts now.
Not a big deal. I don't think it hurts her in any way. It was just a moment on Raw. I mean, if you have the opportunity to win the 24/7 championship, you take it. That's what she did. What this pretty much tells me is that the women's division needs a mid-card title more than anything. If people are that upset that she's winning a 24/7 championship. So that's my take on it.
What?
Good take there. I am going to load up my timer. And here we go. No, you were definitely correct. I don't think that this hurts her whatsoever. If anything, I think it's cool that people like Alexa Bliss can get the chance to win championships that you wouldn't necessarily see them win. Just a nice little moment. The 24/7 championship has been doing pretty well in recent months. I think everything with Dana Brooke and Akira Tozawa and R-Truth has definitely helped the status. And I agree with you. I do feel like we need a mid-card championship for the women's title, especially with the tag team titles. I had to what myself there. Especially with the tag titles.
Yeah. They need. I mean, we don't need tag titles. I mean, that's proven. I do think they need like a workers title for the ladies, like a women's intercontinental or women's United States, something that they can, like an Alexa Bliss, a Dewdrop, a Nikki ASH, a Shotzi, like those. They need something to go for other than the women's championship. They can't just have that championship as the main, like the respective shows championship. They definitely need like a mid card. I'm not
and
sure
it's good that the 24/7 title is giving them that exposure, but there could always be another way that you could get that exposure, and especially with Raw having such a deep women's division. And you know what? I don't know if I've ever said this here, and I know that we're kind of dipping into the lightning round.
Is this a hot take?
Hot takes here. Get your hot takes here.
So I was about to say something, and then I kind of backtracked. I'll still go with it. Raw has the best women's division in all of wrestling. I think the true hot take comes in number 2 is NXT, but we're not ready to have that conversation.
No,
honestly, you know what?
You're gonna make some. You're gonna make some people. NXT. We'll say this: NXT has always been consistent with their women's roster.
They've always been consistent, but
they've always had like top tier talent. They've always had like women that have proved time and time again that they can be on the main roster if they want. You can pluck any one of those women, I think, on NXT right now. Like Nikita, you could throw her on the main roster right now and she'll be over.
Yeah.
You could put. Toxic Attraction.
You just saw it on NXT tonight. They had a 20-woman battle royal to determine who would face Mandy Rose next.
Yeah.
To me, I'm looking at that graphic and I'm like, any of these women, all 20 of them could win.
Tiffany, what's her name?
Tiffany Stratton, Cora Jade, Alba Fire.
They've
even
always
like the lower end. Yeah,
they've always been consistent. NXT, I mean, we're gonna have some naysayers. Obviously, people are gonna be like AEW's women's division. NXT has always destroyed everyone, even WWE's main roster. Like their women's, not right now anyway, but like they're pretty close. But NXT has always been. I think it was at one point on the Chick Foley show. He said like NXT had the best women's. They had Rhea Ripley, Bianca Belair, freaking pretty much everyone you see on TV right now. Shotzi.
A good time period a few years ago.
They had the best roster. They might have the best talent
easily.
Not even men. They might even been better talent than men at one point, like in the NXT women's division. So I mean, Yeah, that's not a hot take at all. I mean, yeah.
I mean, they're
I agree with
definitely
you.
up there with Raw. I think I would put Raw up there just because of the star power. Like,
Yeah, Becky
you
Lynch,
have your
Bianca.
Alexas and your Oscars and your Beckys and Biancas and Rheas and all these different names. But
Yep.
if you're talking about a well-rounded division, I just said it right now, 20 women in that battle royal, any of them could have won that, and been the next
Dude,
challenger for Mandy
Yeah.
Rose. Even like your lower tier women like Kiana James and fucking
Yeah,
all these different names. Like,
Lash Legend, like
yeah.
what else?
Any of
Dude,
them.
we're forgetting Indy Hartwell too. Like she's been there for a while as well. Like I mean, yeah, no, their division's pretty awesome. And I think WWE, it's okay. I'm going to say this if you're listening, if there's anyone listening, any WWE people, it is okay to steal from AEW and put a mid card women's title. They have the TBS championship. Jade Cargill is carrying that and doing wonders with it.
Yep.
Take that into consideration.
The
And make a
TBS title's doing better than the actual women's title right now.
Make a USA Network title. I don't care. You make
Sure.
do something. Make a
Absolutely.
bring the Divas title back and make that the mid card.
Dude,
Do something.
you could make the Divas Championship totally work in
A mid card.
current day
Make it a
WWE.
mid card.
If you put that title on Toxic Attraction, you
Yeah.
could absolutely make the Divas Championship work. If you want to
Yeah.
rename it, sure.
Oh,
but
Yeah. Do
there's
something.
you can make it work. And with just the current status of the women's division, both, I think all in all, like between Raw and NXT, no one's coming close to WWE's women's division.
Yeah.
It's been that way for years. And until there are some, maybe a Sasha Banks or a Paige or a Naomi that are added to the AEW women's division, I know we talk about it a lot, but
Yeah.
no one's coming close to WWE, unfortunately. That will be a discussion for a later date. If Sasha, if Naomi, if Paige get signed, but until then, we'll hold off. It's time to get to some comments before we move on to our next segment. Tyson says, speaking of Ric Flair, did you see the bloody beatdown by Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal on him? Did see that, and we'll get to Jeff Jarrett in just a bit because I got some thoughts on that. But,
Oh boy.
Some good, some bad. But Ace is in the chat. What's up, dudes? Happy Tuesday to the best WWE source on the planet. What? Thank you, Ace.
Oh, thank you, Ace. Thank you,
Definitely
sir.
appreciate that. Of course, Ace, I don't know if you realize, but Tom is not with us. So I think that makes us an even better WWE source now that the old man is not here. But
We don't have his negative takes.
yeah, but he will be back next week for our SummerSlam predictions. Unfortunately, he is still our champion for now. Tyson also mentioned Zoe Stark returns. Look, we're getting an NXT report up in here. I mean, Zoe Stark came back. I don't know if she won the Battle Royal. Did you watch NXT, Marco?
I didn't get to see the Battle Royal. I did watch like the whole show up until that point.
Got you. So Tyson, let us know who won that Battle Royal because I am interested. Also, God, we might have to bring the NXT report back because they've been doing pretty well now that I've been like consistently watching. Cora Jade cut a heater of a promo tonight. Her heel gimmick is, I'm excited for her and Roxanne to go at it. Going to be a good feud. They're doing pretty good. They also brought in the what's his name? Axior A Kid with the mask. His gimmick was pretty cool too.
The other cool thing too I like is that they have the NXT UK Tag Team Championships.
You know what? Can I just hit the button? Let me hit the button.
South slanging, rolling with these hustlers, trying to get rid of all you haters and you busters. Down south slanging, rolling with these hustlers, trying to get rid of all you haters busters.
Yes, the UK Championship is really cool that they brought that on the tag team titles. Continue.
Yeah, no, it's NXT 2.0 has been actually really surprisingly consistently good. I'm gonna go out and say I'm not sure if that's a hot take at all, but I know we crapped on it in the early stages, but it seems like it's coming into its own.
I like it. We've been saying it, like this is what NXT should be. Black and gold, or rather, this is what it has to be. Yeah, and the fact that they are succeeding in it is an even bigger plus. A lot of people hate that it's on the USA Network because of, it should be a Peacock / WWE Network type thing. And I get that. It should go back to how NXT was on the network. But the fact that they are kind of coming into their own with this NXT 2.0, with all these characters, you just mentioned it before, you can take any of those women on their roster and put them in the main roster, and it would completely make sense. I also think that works for the men's roster. A lot of those names, I can see them calling up very soon. It's the trend to kind of just shit on NXT 2.0. And a lot of it is like, I get where a lot of people are coming from, but like, it's not bad. It's really not that bad of a show if you give it the time and you really invest in the storyline. So not to turn into a whole shill for NXT 2.0, but it definitely is doing its job pretty well.
There's some cool characters on there. Like we're forgetting, I always forget, Legado de Fantasma and, Santos Escobar. We always say he's the better, the more successful,
the better Andrade.
Yeah. Like he can cut a promo like nobody's business. He's great in the ring. Like I could definitely see him jumping to the main roster and taking that Andrade spot.
Sure.
Where he was supposed to be. Like
so many names. Solo Sikoa, Cameron Grimes.
He's definitely heading up. Cameron Grimes is going to head up at some point. Braun Breaker can head up there. So like literally that, like, anyone from, like we said, anyone from that roster right now can get called up. And that's why I say like WWE would never like hurt with talent. It just hurts when the talent that walks away, kind of like the Sasha Banks and the Naomi. Like it sucks that they abruptly left, but at the same time they can bring another one in. Bianca Belair is kind of stepping into that Sasha Banks role.
That's where the developmental territory is at its best, because you need that platform or that system where you can say, oh, we just lost these names. Well, at least we have a few more of these women that we could just call up and it'll be fine. So definitely some things to look out for. NXT is definitely booming right now. I think they are definitely hitting their stride. So we'll have to wait and see there. But back to these comments before we move on. Ace says, agreed, WWE's women's division is the class of the wrestling world. Everyone else lagging behind by a lot. They put a lot of emphasis in this women's division. I know like they were kind of shoving it down our throats around that 2016 period where they really were going all in on it. Like I think it was done for where we are now. Like if they hadn't done, first Elimination Chamber, first Hell in a Cell, first Last Women Standing, all that, I don't think we would be where we are right now, where the women are taken as seriously as they are. So I'm kind of glad that we have reached this stage where Raw and NXT are the best women's division. SmackDown needs some work. SmackDown's gonna need some work there, but for now they're doing pretty well. And Ace also says NXT report just for the bump and jam and the Nickelodeon Slime need it back. Yeah, we might have to bring that back soon.
I agree. It's been getting good, so you might have to hop in with some.
It used to be the punishment. It used to be like you would watch it when you were last on the title race, but now it might be a reward. We might have to see. And also Zoe Stark did win the Battle Royal, so that is also something to look out for. Zoe Stark versus Mandy Rose in the future.
Nice.
Not too bad. Not too bad of a match. All righty. It is time to get back into the show, and that is with our next segment, which we like to call
Collar and Elbow.
It's a little segment we like to call Collar and Elbow. All right, it's time to get into the topic that I'm sure both of us have been waiting to talk about. JEFFJARRETT, double the double J. Next weekend, we have Jeff Jarrett being the guest referee for the Street Profits versus the Usos tag team title match. And it was announced that Jeff Jarrett would be teaming up with Jay Lethal being accompanied by Karen Jarrett, because why wouldn't he be accompanied by Karen Jarrett?
Why not?
To face off against Andrade El Idolo and Ric Flair in Ric Flair's quote unquote final match. So we're getting a lot of Jeff Jarrett in these in next weekend. I'll let you take this one to start us off.
Man.
What are you thinking about? Well, let's at least talk about. Give me your thoughts on both Jeff Jarrett being the referee and Jeff Jarrett being Ric Flair's final opponent.
The referee is kind of it's a weird spot, but I get it. Tennessee, so they need that. Like, are you gonna go? You gonna go Jerry King Lawler? Probably not. For him to be the referee, you can't have him. He's not really, he's not physical. He might be. He's probably in better shape than a lot of us, but he's not in that condition to, enforce a match between two of the, probably two of the best tag teams in wrestling, and it's gonna get real physical. So you definitely need a guy like Jeff Jarrett to jump in there, which is, like I said, it's kind of weird. Them name. I mean, other than that, who could you have like? The only other person I could think of that they were thrown in there is probably Sami Zayn, just for like to be the special guest referee, just for the story factor of it. But I mean, I don't mind it. I mean, I don't mind Jeff Jarrett being the special guest referee. He does have a deal with WWE's working dates with them and stuff like that. So, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, I'm a low key Jeff Jarrett fan. I do have my my Zombie Sailor Toys figure pre-ordered with that attire actually that you just showed with the like the straps going down. So I mean, I like that. Definitely, if you have the chance, definitely listen to the his My World podcast this week, where they kind of go in depth and they kind of on Ric Flair, they kind of shoot on him, and they kind of weave in that the podcast talk, but with the storyline going into Ric Flair's last match. It's actually really good. I mean, like I said, I don't hate it. I know you have the opposite take on Jeff Jarrett, but as far as the match goes, I mean, the story between Ric Flair and Jeff Jarrett goes a ways back to when Jeff Jarrett's father was booking the territories, as they say, and so they have a lot. Their history goes way, so it kind of makes sense for this match to happen. Definitely helps in a tag team environment where Ric Flair is pushing 80 essentially. So I mean, not saying he can't carry a match by himself, but where he is at that age, he definitely does need that. Like Jeff Jarrett as well. He's not he's not a spring chicken. Yeah. So you have Jay Lethal and you have Andrade to probably pick up most of that match and do it. But I mean, I don't hate it. I like this. If it was a one-on-one, I'd be probably a little bit more excited for it. I am excited for it. I do love Jay Lethal. I love Jeff Jarrett. I pretty much love all four guys that are in this match. But if it was a one-on-one, I think for the story, it'd probably be more intriguing. Just like I said, definitely do your history, find out like the actual like the history behind Jeff Jarrett and Ric Flair and Jeff Jarrett's father and all that stuff that happened with booking and all that stuff, and Jerry Lawler's involved in that at some point, because I'll just give you a little tidbit. Back in the day, they would travel towns, and Ric Flair would be that attraction that you would want to bring into your territory, essentially, right? And then it's Nashville, Tennessee. They like each wrestling section had their main guy, had their like god, essentially their wrestling god. Like Tennessee had Jerry King Lawler. That was their guy. And Ric Flair would like to, he would want to go into that territory and say beat the main guy, and then you'd never see him again. So he'd basically he'd go into your territory, fight your guy, and then he wouldn't come back. So there'd be no story. It'd just be like, hey, I just came in, beat your guy. And one of those stories was, he was coming into Tennessee. He ended up fighting, I think, Coco Beware, as opposed to fighting Jerry the King Lawler. And Jeff Jarrett said that was probably like one of the best Ric Flair matches that nobody talks about between him and Coco Beware. Which, not the ideal match that Ric Flair wanted. He wanted to face Jerry King Lawler and beat him in Tennessee, but that's not happening. You're not doing that because we're not going to see you again. So you're going to come into our town, beat our main guy, and then just run off into the sunset? No. So that's just one of the stories, back when, Jeff Jarrett's father was like booking and all that stuff. But there are more stuff, as Jeff Jarrett got, came into the business himself and, met Ric Flair along the way and all that stuff. So, there is a story there. Definitely, like I said, if you're young, do your history. If you want to know, or just listen to that podcast this week between Conrad and Jeff Jarrett, because it is a little tense, as we know. Ric Flair is Conrad's father-in-law, and he did leave him a bloody mess in the middle of a parking lot.
Yeah.
As Jeff Jarrett called him, a turtle on his shell, just on his back, just rolling around, begging for help. It was actually it's pretty entertaining. So, but nonetheless, let's hear young Anthony's take on it, because he's totally not excited for this.
Hot takes here. Get your hot takes here.
All right, look, it's not that I'm not excited. So where do I begin? So let me first off say that I think this is just because I didn't grow up with Jeff Jarrett. In the fact that I didn't grow up with any like real legends, but I was exposed to a lot of legends growing up, with the different appearances like Hogan, Flair, Rock, Austin, all of these appearances. Like, in that regard, I kind of quote unquote like grew up with them.
Yep.
Jeff Jarrett, I've only started like really experiencing in WWE when when he came back.
Yep.
Besides that, my kind of exposure to Jeff Jarrett was his run in TNA, his run with Global Force Wrestling. So I haven't really had like that much connection to Jeff. So that's probably the main reason why I'm not like too excited over it.
Yeah.
I think where my problem lies with this is the fact that this was such a big build for both of these things. Like, they really hyped up, this was going to be, there's going to be a special guest ref. Oh, this is going to be Ric Flair's last opponent. And like, it's not to say that Jeff Jarrett is like a bad decision, because he's really not. Like, you explained it perfectly with Ric Flair's final match. And with all of that being into consideration, like, it makes me a little bit more excited for this match. However, I think this is just from a young person's perspective, that there could have been other options both for the last match and for the special guest ref, but it makes sense that Jarrett is chosen for both, because like you said, if you're talking about the SummerSlam tag match, if you're going for someone for the Tennessee Nashville, you're going to go, usually they go with Jerry Lawler. Jerry Lawler's not reffing no match.
Yeah, no.
So you would have to go with Jeff Jarrett in that point if you wanted to go, with someone like that. I brought up Mick Foley, obviously,
yeah,
it wouldn't make sense, but
he did sign a Legends deal recently, so
he did sign a Legends deal. That's why
not
I
too
thought it was
far
going
out
to be that.
Yeah.
But I guess if you want someone to lay it down the line, sure, Jeff Jarrett is fine. And then for the tag match with Ric Flair's, his last match, I don't mind Ric Flair versus Jeff Jarrett. It's just, I feel like there were other options that people were expecting, like, oh, maybe we get like Ric Flair versus Sting in a tag team match, or maybe FTR gets involved, or the Rock and Roll Express, or now when Ric Flair tweeted the other day that hashtag WWE RAW, people were expecting, holy shit, is AJ Styles coming?
Yeah.
I think what makes me disappointed is a mix of the overwhelming hype that both situations got, and leading to a result that I don't connect with. And there's a lot of different people with a lot of different opinions. Some people say that they just don't like Jeff Jarrett being in there because it's just a disappointing situation.
Yeah.
I'm more of the opinion that I don't like that Ric Flair is going to be tag teaming with Andrade for his last match, just because of how Andrade's been treated.
Yeah.
In AEW, it's like,
Yep.
okay, I guess. I like that Jay Lethal's involved because we've seen him train with him, so that makes sense. The story with Jarrett makes sense. So it's warming up on me a little bit, but I think just that lack of a connection is what's kind of preventing me from getting all in.
Yeah.
When it comes to the tag team match, I would have liked to have seen someone that I, can personally vibe with, but maybe this is a blessing in disguise. Like we've seen Jeff Jarrett in GCW with Effie. That was something that no one was expecting.
Yeah.
And that worked out pretty well. As someone who isn't really big on GCW, I was definitely, tuned into that. So maybe this kind of, extended exposure of Jeff Jarrett will lead to more of a connection. But, until then, I'm fine with it. I think it's just fine. But for now, it's fine. It's okay. I sound like Hawk. It's fine.
I mean, I'm hoping he comes. At least if he brings out a guitar and someone gets smashed over the head with it or on the back, I'll be
okay with.
Like I'm not sure who he's going to do it to, but I mean, we'll see.
It's got to be one of the Usos. No. This adds to my prediction for next week now, but I think it's going to be Sami Zayn. I feel like it has to.
You think he's going to he's going to try to interrupt, and then Jeff Jarrett's going to smash him over the head? See that's I can see that happen. The other thing too is I wish, because there's also a story that they're building with Jay Lethal and Ric Flair. I wouldn't have minded it to be Ric Flair versus Jay Lethal as his last match, mainly because he trained him. They were trained together, and then that whole thing comes up. He's like, "Hey, sorry, you can't be a part of the show." And then you have the build like, why can't I be a part of it? Blah blah blah.
That's a good angle. You know what? All right.
You know what? Fight me, or that type of thing. Like fight me and said, if I can't be a part of the card, I'm gonna fight you or something. If make it unsanctioned or whatever you want to. Like call not unsanctioned. You can't do it unsanctioned because it's the last match, but get him in there.
Marco, you're winning me over. I'll give you that.
They did. So there's two stories essentially. Like they kind of told both those stories. Like Jeff Jarrett has that long history of Ric Flair just like undermining Jeff Jarrett and not treating him as his peer, that type of thing.
Right.
But then you have Jay Lethal who idolized Ric Flair and blah blah and all this stuff, and now he gets to train him, and it's his last match, and I get to train my idol, and then I'm not on the card. Like, what the dude? What the hell? You use me like you use it? That whole thing.
What I will. Sorry to cut you off. Although a lot of people aren't really big on the names that are involved.
Yeah.
With all of this hype behind it, I do admire the fact that there is a level of story and build in the match itself. There's a rivalry that's been building up, and it's kind of been building right. In plain sight that no one's kind of been following. But now that the match is confirmed, the pieces are aligning and it's making more sense.
I would have rather have it as Conrad and Ric Flair versus Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett. That would have been pretty entertaining.
Yeah, Conrad. Give me Conrad and Ric Flair. Conrad and Ric Flair versus Jeff and Karen Jarrett. That would
dude. Like
that would be the match.
I mean,
I also suggested Ric Flair versus Karen Jarrett for the King of the Mountain Championship.
Oh my, that was actually really funny. But it's Andrade. Even Jeff Jarrett's. I know he's like in gimmick on the podcast and stuff like that, and he's kind of shitting on Andrade. But he was shitting on him, but he was actually saying like what everyone else is saying. Like, dude, like he's actually lucky to be in this position, like in a main event position, because like he's been given so many chances.
Yeah.
In the WWE anyway, not so much in AEW. And he just doesn't like Jeff Jarrett said, he's a curtain jerker at best. Like he's an opening guy. He's not even a mid-card
talent.
He's more of Which is, and I think you seen Andrade on the in the title kind of kills it. That's what I think really happened to you. I don't think it was Jay Lethal. I don't think it was Jeff Jarrett. I think it was just seeing Andrade next to Ric Flair going, why the I get you look at it, you go, I get Jeff Jarrett, I get Jay Lethal.
Like, it makes sense.
What the fuck is Andrade doing? Like, make it a 2-on-1 handicap and then have someone run in and help Ric Flair. Something like that. Like I don't know.
I feel like there were different people that you could include in the story that would make more sense than just saying, "Oh, Andrade is part of the family." Fucking
just put him in.
Just join.
Make it Charlotte. Put Charlotte in the match.
Put Charlotte in there. For
Charlotte
fuck's
and Rick
sake.
versus.
I would love to see Charlotte versus Jay Lethal. Like, come on.
Yeah, why not?
But all of that taken into consideration, I don't hate the idea. It's warming up on me. The match, I feel like the match is going to be good. Like, something is telling me like the match is going to be good, even with the fact that Flair is very old and all of this. Something is in the back of my mind telling me like it's going to be a good match. So I'm holding out hope. Dallypool is actually in the chat and he says, will Karen Jarrett get involved and Charlotte will do a run-in? So that makes you think, will we also see Charlotte being involved in both weekends? Will we see her at SummerSlam and will we see her at Ric Flair's last match? So that's something to think about. Until then, we've talked extensively about this. I want to run through a few more of these topics pretty quickly and kind of move on with the rest of the show. We got a little bit more confirmation as to Edge being the spooky vignette, of this, all these little Easter eggs of, the Cena hat and the Foley flannel and the Rated RKO shirt, and all these different stuff. And we got a blood on a mirror saying, I am coming to, which I guess this confirms the TV-14 rating. I'm kidding. That we're seeing blood here. But it was announced by Fightful that Edge is expected to be at the Madison Square Garden show next week, Monday Night Raw, which is enticing me to actually get a ticket to Monday Night Raw.
It's in your neck of the woods.
Yeah, I might go. We'll have to see there. What do you think about Edge coming back and being involved? I mean, assume that he is involved in this whole Judgment Day versus Mysterio's fiasco. And where do you see him fitting in at SummerSlam if there is a match taking place?
I mean, I would assume Judgment Day versus Mysterios is on the card as well. That's probably going to happen.
Well, Judgment Day versus Mysterios is happening Raw next week.
Oh, that's right.
We haven't gotten any. So who? I don't even know what's going to happen with that.
So if it's Madison Square Garden. It's a Monday after SummerSlam, right?
No, the Madison Square Garden is happening next week, which is
next week. That's right. Okay. I see him basically trying to doing a run-in, maybe saving Ray from being attacked by both, Damian Priest, Finn Balor, and the newly formed Mysterio that's going to join. No, I don't know. I have a feeling Dominic's going to join, man. I don't know what it is. I just have a weird feeling he's going to join Judgment Day.
That's the beauty of the Judgment Day. All right, I'm not going to get into all of that. Continue.
Yeah, I think what better way to debut Dominic as a new member of the Judgment Day is on his father's 20-year anniversary of his career in WWE. Like how do you like that's like heartbreaking. Like, you're there to celebrate your father's 20-year career with the WWE, only to turn on him and join the Judgment Day, and then maybe Edge comes in, and saves Rey Mysterio or something like that, and maybe they do like Rey Mysterio and Edge versus the Judgment Day or something like that, or maybe I don't know. We'll see. If he does return, I see Edge, Rey versus Judgment Day,
right
at SummerSlam. With Dominic on the side, like kind of cheering him on, and then maybe turning on Rey Mysterio at SummerSlam. Because like I said, again, we need something big. We had the Becky turn, at SummerSlam when she slapped the shit out of Charlotte. That was like that huge moment there for her. So there's always usually like a huge moment at SummerSlam, and that's probably going to be one of them.
Yeah. I absolutely agree with you. I would love to see Edge and Rey Mysterio tag teaming against the Judgment Day, with Dominic maybe in a neutral corner.
He's kind of undecided.
Yeah,
he wants to join.
Kind of undecided. I think a good little tidbit in the story was the idea that Dominic joined Judgment Day as the commentators hyped it up, kind of as a way to work from the inside out, being like, I'll join Judgment Day just to leave Rey alone. But then Damian kind of shut it down because he realized like, oh, this is just your way of, it was going to be some shenanigans. But maybe the story is leading to Dominic joined the Judgment Day because he wanted to join the Judgment Day. Yeah. So this is another layer. Dude, I fucking love this story and no one else loves it. And I don't understand why. Like, I get it. There was a little blip in the road. I think the only like true blip in the road for the Judgment Day was this injury to Rhea Ripley.
Yeah.
I don't know if you would get this whole Dominic and Rey inclusion if Rhea didn't go down with the injury. I feel like this was just a way to keep them in the story. And everyone was like, they were on main event. They're losing to the Mysterios. Follow the story and you'll realize that there's a lot more to even on Twitter today. And I want to see if I could bring up the tweet. And it was on my personal account. And someone said something along the lines of, the injury to Rhea Ripley really affected the Judgment Day. And I responded saying, how? Like, they're still following their mission statement of trying to recruit wrestlers who are overshadowed and overlooked. Their rivalry with Mysterios has been a consistent story leading up to SummerSlam. Edge's return is just around the corner. Like, although it's not Edge versus Finn Balor or Edge versus Damian Priest, they're doing fine. If anything, it works with the story that it's not Edge versus Finn or Edge versus Damian, because you would have to choose one over the other, and there's no leader to Judgment Day, folks. So it's better to do a tag team match in this situation where Edge will team with Rey Mysterio to face the Judgment Day, possibly have Dominic join at SummerSlam. I guess the only way to find out is next week for the predictions. And then Rhea comes back and we get 4 people in the Judgment Day, or we stick with 3. That's the beauty of this group. Anything could happen.
Yeah, and the other thing too is like you're getting Finn Balor on TV every week, people. That's the upside to this.
Yes.
Like remember before we were complaining about how Finn Balor is being treated and how he's being used and how he was not being, all of it. Losing a Theory, all this, even before that, like not even showing up on Raw, like just being like an afterthought. Now he's in one of the main storylines on that show. And you're still not happy with that? Like,
fans will never be happy.
Yeah, look, same thing with Ciampa. He was on main event, he was doing all this stuff, and now he was in the main event, not main event, but he was in the main event segment on Raw last night. With Logan Paul, with arguably the biggest social media star in the world. Like, come on, people, like just follow, like you said, follow the storylines. Just none of this microwave stuff. I know, like you have the AEW where they just do matches and there's they have some storylines but not. But like WWE's more the storyline driven. It's a TV. It's movies. We make movies. Like Vince McMahon says, you got to follow along with it.
We make movies.
Like every match that happens for a reason. Like there's something to that match. It's falling in line with a storyline. It's not just like a match that they throw in.
Yep,
it happens, and then that's it.
And just last week with losing to Finn, this week losing to Damian Priest, it's showing that Rey isn't as reliable as an option as we may have thought when he was cheating to win. He's lost twice clean now, so this is maybe proving to Dom that maybe he needs to go to a place where
like-
he will not be overshadowed. That's all this story is about. And I even saw an article that was saying, oh, here are 5 people that need to join the Judgment Day. Number 5, T-Bar. Number 4, fucking like
Slapjack.
like Dewdrop and Nikki AS8. I'm like, no one understands this, and it's ridiculous. But
no, it's not about joining. It's about them recruiting you and
yes,
seeing your that you're being overlooked, seeing that you're not being utilized as you should. It's not about like they. Notice I said they and not Damian Priest is recruiting you. It's they are recruiting you. It's,
remember, Damian and Rhea recruited Finn. It wasn't Edge recruiting him.
Yeah, it's they. Yeah, I mean, obviously they kicked Edge out at that at that point, but even Edge was surprised, like, "Wow, he actually joined." Huh? So it wasn't like it's like you said. There's no leader. There's no like main leader. It's if you're feeling underutilized and you're feeling like you're not getting you're not where you should be, join us. Like, join us in our mission statement. Don't let this person overshadow you. Don't let Rey Mysterio, your father, who's like arguably one of the greatest of all time. Don't let his shadow overcast like what you're gonna do in the future. And you can see it happening. Like it's and people complain about Dominic not like being that great in the ring and all this stuff. And I think he's actually really good. I think he's come a long way.
Solid, yeah.
Yeah, he's not gonna be the greatest like right now anyway, but put him in the right position, get him that right match, put him in the match with his father. And then you'll see.
Yeah.
Which is probably going to happen, most likely.
Yeah, oh, it's absolutely going to happen. And I just realized that it's going to happen. And I think that makes me even more excited for this whole Judgment Day story. This is probably the best thing that could have happened to the Judgment Day, getting the Mysterios involved, because now there's an extra layer of storytelling that's been brewing for a little bit, with Dom and Ray kind of being this semi-awkward pairing where it's not really helped Dom and it's also brought Ray down the card. This could be this final hoorah for Rey Mysterio, like this big last storyline for him going up against his son in the most perfect way possible. I am all for it. I wish more people listened to just the Judgment Day section of the RAWDOWN, because holy shit, like
it's so good.
I love being the voice of reason for this story, and no one else is just listening. Folks, tell a friend about the RAWDOWN. We are doing everything we can to explain to you why the Judgment Day is great. Look, I had some other topics that I wanted to talk about. Logan Paul and the MIZ is confirmed for SummerSlam. We're getting the rematch, Becky Lynch versus Bianca Belair, but I kind of want to shift gears altogether, and I want this to be our last topic for the collar and elbow before we move on. And that is what happened last night to start off Raw. I know, Marco, you wanted to bring this up. And that is Titus O'Neil cutting a bizarre promo with a spotlight. He mentions that WWE doesn't talk about race. They don't talk about politics. They don't talk about anything divisive. And they are here to put smiles on faces, as is the quote. I feel like that's Triple H's favorite quote is, we're here to put smiles on faces. That's always his go-to. Marco, I'll let you take this one because I know that you were very eager to talk about this.
Yeah, I thought I seen a lot of like chatter on Twitter about how weird it was, how like it was an odd promo. Why is he out there? Why was he in the middle of the ring just talking? He wasn't talking about nonsense. He kind of gave like a mission statement for the WWE in general, and obviously he's a global ambassador. Which they highlight a lot of the stuff that he does. He even said it's where he travels all over the world. He's that guy besides like a Stephanie, or a Nick Khan or any of those people that actually spreads the message of the WWE and gets involved in community and gets involved in all these different things. And he's been he's been nominated for an ESPY. I forget what award that is. It's like a I forget what it's like a charity award almost.
Yeah,
that they do every
I
year.
forget.
I think he got nominated again this year for it. So he's a legit like I want to say businessman essentially. Like he's the face of the WWE. Like he said, that's what everyone's seeing when they all over the world. He's traveling everywhere. He's spreading that message. I thought it was I think a lot of people thought it was kind of weird that he comes out during, obviously, like we talked at the beginning of the show, all these allegations that are coming up about Vince McMahon and all this stuff. So it seems kind of like, instead of Vince McMahon coming out and saying something weird, we'll have Titus O'Neil come out, and cut a promo. But, he did bring up a good point. Like, obviously we're here to put smiles on faces, like you say, we don't talk about race, religion, or politics. That's, we leave that on the outside. And when you come in here, and we're here to entertain you and all that stuff, which is true. Like I watch wrestling for an escape. I don't watch it, to see any current events. It even like Road Dogg talked about it on his podcast this past week, where a lot of the stuff they removed off of Peacock, like a lot of the Attitude Era stuff, the stuff that they were like they had the Nation of Domination versus DX, and we talked about this on the show before. Like they came out and DX dressed up as the Nation of Domination, stuff like that. And Road Dogg said it was kind of hard for him to watch. Like he couldn't, the person that he is now isn't the person that he was back then. And it was kind of weird for him to see, that what they were doing. And even the Nation of Domination in that sense was like a voice for a particular set of people that weren't being voiced correctly. So like you don't even see, like that's even that falls into the race thing. So like him coming out and saying like we don't talk about race, religion, politics, we want to leave that stuff out. You could tell like WWE now isn't the WWE back in the Attitude Era. And I think what we're with the TV 14 stuff and them changing and stuff like that, I don't think they're changing it because I think last week I said they're changing it because what's happening with Vince McMahon. I think they're changing the TV 14 thing to kind of fall in line with what AEW's doing. They're being competitive essentially. They're not trying to say, hey, we're TV 14, so this is whatever Vince McMahon's doing. That's what it is. It's basically saying like we can do this now where AEW's proven that they can have all the sponsors in the world and they can get away with blood on TV and all that stuff, and it's seen as a sport. We can do it too, essentially. That's all I seen it as. The promo I thought was, I didn't hate the promo. I thought it was, I thought it was cool. I thought it kind of took away from, what's going on the outside, which I think they were trying to get to was like, hey, don't focus on, the WWE's business on the outside and what you see on the news. Focus on what you see in ring and what you see on TV and, just follow that. Just, that's what we're here for. We're not here for you to listen to what's happening in the business part of WWE. We're the business. We're the in-ring. We're the talent. Focus your eyes and ears on the talent and don't worry about what's going on. I thought it was a great message. I think it was just weird that it was Titus O'Neil delivering that message. I think if Stephanie McMahon came out and said it, I think it would have been a little bit more receptive, personally.
Right.
Because it's a McMahon besides Vince McMahon.
Yeah, anyone besides Vince McMahon.
Yeah.
Bring out Jeff Jarrett to do this message.
Jeff Jarrett. Yeah, Jeff Jarrett would have been if he delivered that message. John Cena kind of did it when he was out there. He did that same exact message. It was more elaborate and more in the John Cena fashion, not as direct as Titus O'Neil. But he did the same thing. He put the same message out there, and I think you're going to hear that a lot more.
Yeah,
as they go into the TV 14 thing, I think you're going to hear a lot more. We're here to put smiles on faces. Don't worry about the outside stuff. Just don't think WWE is going to tank because what's happening with Vince McMahon. Just focus on everything else. And because there's people like us, we're a little bit older than a lot of the kids that watch WWE. They're not thinking about Vince McMahon and his shenanigans outside the ring. They're thinking about Ezekiel and speak with Zeke and all that stuff and all that. They're thinking of Logan Paul because he's still a social media superstar. He's still YouTuber and stuff like that. So a lot of teenagers and kids, they know who Logan Paul is. So they're gonna like listen to that. They're not gonna listen to all the outside nonsense. So I thought it was a good message. Again, weird to just come out and do that, but I don't know. What do you what are your thoughts on it? Like, were you in the Twitter realm where people are just like, what the hell is he doing out here? This is kind of strange.
Well, first I have to say that I actually stepped out of the room when this happened. So when I walked in the room and I was half into a Titus O'Neil promo, I was like, what the fuck is going on? No, but a few takeaways from this. One, I want to say I love Titus O'Neil. I think he is
such a good dude,
overlooked as just a cool dude. Like he is, besides all the stuff, like, obviously everything that he does as a global ambassador, like you could see how great of a guy he is. And I guess it also makes sense for him to be the guy to come out. They were in Tampa, I believe, and that's, his hometown. So
that's right. That's true.
I guess they wanted to have a guy that they, the fans could relate to in the arena. So makes sense. I see a promo from Titus O'Neil like this, and it makes me wish that they would put him on TV more in like an authoritative role. Like if I was booking WWE, and I never thought I would a million years say this, but the way that President Jack Tunney was presented on WWE or WF, that's how I would put Titus O'Neil as a authoritative role. Just like he doesn't have to be like, a guy that comes out every week or, involved in storylines, but he has that like professionalism to him. And he has that, perception around him that like, he's well, respected. He's well received. He's technically a Hall of Famer if you count the Warrior Award. Why not? Put Titus O'Neil on TV some more. But that's not the reason why we're talking about Titus O'Neil. It was a weird promo. It was a weird situation to have Titus O'Neil come out after not having him on TV for the longest time, or having him in 24/7 segments, to now be the professional voice of reason.
You're not an Adam Pearce guy.
I'm not an Adam Pearce guy. I'm not gonna lie. I should put Titus O'Neil in Adam Pearce's role, and I'll be happy.
Yeah, you know what? Like we talk about Sneed. He's the president of the RAWDOWN, and Titus O'Neil would be that authority figure. He would step in when like shit goes down, like when it's like when you really need a definitive decision on something, like the whole like Usos with the arm up. Both matches, like the tag team match, one arm was up, and then the referee pinned 1, 2, 3, and then on SmackDown we'll talk about that happened again. He would be that person to step, like not even show up on TV, like you said, maybe show up on the screen in his office,
exactly,
and say the recent events with WWE officials counting 3 while a competitor, like that whole thing. That'd be actually pretty cool if they went that route. Like you have Adam Pearce come out and say some shit, but then Titus would come out and just trump that and be like, you know what? No, we're not doing it this way. He doesn't have to come out and do like he's not going to be the Teddy Long.
Yeah, no.
Like, hey, player. Look at
I mean, I'm sure he could be, but I would rather him just be like that kind of not serious, but like just a good authority role, something different than like kind of what we're getting from Adam Pearce, but just like put it backstage behind a desk, and leave it at that. So yeah, I love Titus. Promo was weird, like I said. I think it's funny that they one of the biggest things that was on Twitter, and I agree with it, the fact that he mentions, we don't dabble into like race or politics or anything divisive. WWE, if you just do a quick search of their history, is very divisive in that regard.
What's good in the hood?
You didn't play the rest of that clip. No, I'm joking. Don't.
Yeah, right. That moment, just the perception of a lot of different races in professional in the WWE.
Yeah.
Vince McMahon fighting God on pay-per-view.
Yeah, that's right.
Everything, like even more modern times, like, you know, Joe Gacy being perceived as this ultra liberal, quote unquote snowflake type character.
Like
Retribution
woke
being that like semi, you know, Retribution happening around the protests, you know, BLM, Antifa, all of that. So to say that the WWE doesn't dabble into those serious topics is a bit of a stretch, Titus.
They're timely. They're timely with their with their decisions.
But the idea that the WWE is this kind of, you know, grabs you from the real world, like takes you out of that. I experienced that for sure around the pandemic. I know a lot of people were like, why the fuck is WWE putting on shows during the pandemic? This is awful. Look,
it's weird.
It was weird, but you have to look at it from the other side. If there was no WWE during the pandemic, I don't know what I would have done with myself. Like, I mean, I don't even know if I would be podcasting. Like, I started podcasting during the pandemic. So, and that was because there was WWE consistently happening. So who knows if, you know, I would get this platform if it wasn't for that continuing to happen. So for me, who was a, you know, graduating high school senior and didn't have much to look forward to during the 2020 pandemic, I always knew that there was at least WWE and AEW that I could look towards. Of course, with all the controversy behind the scenes, at least on screen, I knew that there was going to be something, you know, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, at least there's going to be wrestling. That was my mentality during the pandemic. So I understand where they're coming from of, you know, they're here to take you out of the real world, put a smile on your face, because I experienced that firsthand. So I completely get that. It's just a little weird about everything with, you know, even you look back in 2016 when Titus got suspended for 3 months because he told Vince McMahon to step out of the way when Stephanie was walking past him. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, he
to
touched.
Now,
yeah.
So you know, years from now, you know, that happened years ago, but now looking at it in 2021, having him co-host WrestleMania with Hulk Hogan, and we know all that happened with Hulk Hogan for 2022. Now being the spokesperson to kind of be that Wizard of Oz type, pay no attention to that man behind the curtain. So a lot of moving parts.
Quite the journey for Titus. And even back then when that happened with Vince McMahon, he was still like kind of like doing that, like I'm not sure if he was global ambassador, but he was still like doing like an ambassadorship with WWE. Like he was still doing those like community things and you know, doing a lot of things with like, you know, fathers and, you know, being that like representative for like a good father and all that stuff. And, because I seen him a lot of those, like I think they did like a campaign with like him and like Roman Reigns and I forget who else, and they were showing them with their kids and all that stuff. So, and I think like, you know, I think Stephanie, we give a lot of credit to Stephanie. I think she had a lot to do with him being the global ambassador. In doing that ambassadorship type stuff. Because if you see her, he's usually like you see her in those pictures or like those photo ops with the different organizations or different companies that they're visiting. He's usually next to her. He's usually in that group. 9 times out of 10, it's Stephanie, Titus O'Neil, and maybe like, you know, like Roman Reigns or like another WWE.
Even like Ultimate Warrior's wife, like, you know, all those different figureheads.
So it's usually him and her. So like I think you know, she probably had a lot to do with him, you know, being in that position and stuff like that. So I mean, if Vince McMahon is going to step away and, you know, you're not going to see him anymore, you know, what better people to have than like Stephanie and Titus O'Neil being the faces of your of your company. I mean,
Aura. It makes the millions of dollars catchphrase have a little new twist on it.
Yeah.
Millions of hush dollars. Oh shit. We have fun here on the RAWDOWN. Look,
great.
we could talk about Titus and all of this for age. I would love to talk about Titus O'Neil for ages, but we're running a little long here on the show, so I'm going to be honest. There wasn't really a big match of the week, so we'll kind of gloss over that one. But we will end the show as we always do, and it's by asking the age-old question:
Who won the week?
Who won the week? Marco, I'll let you go first.
Man, I did like SmackDown this past week, maybe because that main event was awesome with oh my god, Dawkins and Jimmy.
Right.
But I'm gonna go with Raw. Only because of the developments, like we talked about with Judgment Day. I thought that the tag team, the match had with Alexa Bliss and Doudrop, and I thought that was pretty entertaining. Carmella and Bianca Belair was great. AJ Styles in Theory was really good. Seth Rollins and Zeke put on a bang. Like they had way more matches that I enjoyed than SmackDown did. But yeah, so I'm gonna go with Raw, and obviously Logan Paul. We got a Logan Paul sighting, which I'm super excited about as always.
Yeah. No, I'll also go with Raw. I feel like in many areas, although the 3 hours hurts the show a lot by being so long, there's also a lot of room for the show to be better than SmackDown because there's more content to pick from.
Exactly.
So a lot of matches that I like. I like what they're doing with Seth and Riddle going forward. I even like the opening segment with Carmella and Bianca and Becky. You can also tell the TV 14 is kind of bringing its way in. What was that Carmella line? She's a badass with a great ass.
Yeah, I know who grew on me a little bit this week. No pun intended. Grew. Should I say? Is that really a pun? Omos.
That match with I'll give you that.
Yeah. I liked the fact that after that, like he just destroyed everyone, but then he went after the Usos. Did you? Yeah. That was actually pretty. They like kind of like cowered in the corner. I was like, that kind of like, I don't know that it. Just watching that did something to me. It was like, oh, like I could see him like
legitimizes him a little bit more.
Yeah, it's like he's not just like that bad guy that they're just gonna like throw him with with a heel and have him just be that big monster and help the heel beat up everybody. No, right. he's there for himself, and he's just showing you he could like I could take both of those titles if I wanted to. Like I could be the undisputed tag team champions by myself. If he should
fuck it at this point. Just give Omos that. I don't know how they've never done that. Put the tag titles on one person. It has never been done before, and I don't know how.
They kind of almost did it with Braun Strowman with Nicholas.
But even that, like they put a kid
he had to give
him,
like
just 2-on-1 handicap match. Put the titles on Omos. That is, if I was booking WWE, Titus O'Neil would announce a 2-on-1 handicap match for Omos to be tag team champions. That's how I would book WWE.
And then I'm entering myself as I'm putting him in the last man standing match with Brock and Roman, and I'm having him take those titles too.
Yeah,
and then I'm gonna have
Jeff
him go to
Jarrett
SmackDown.
Is the referee for it all.
Yep, and I'm gonna have him go to SmackDown. I'm having beat down not Walter, sorry, Gunther, and take the IC title.
Gunther keeps his title if I'm
I'm just gonna have Omos
Gunther and Shinsuke on every SmackDown. They hyped that last week, but did they follow up on it this week with Gunther and Shinsuke? I don't know if I caught that.
I don't remember.
I have to look back. I hope that happens at SummerSlam.
But I think if I'm booking, I'm having Omos I'm gonna do reality as opposed to sports entertainment. And in reality, he's walking in and taking any title he wants to. I know Brock Lesnar's a strong guy. I know Roman Reigns is a strong guy. But if I see Omos walk towards me in a match, I'm just going to hand over my titles to him and just walk away gracefully because I don't want any parts of that man at all.
So if you were in a fight, you had to choose who you fight between Brock and Omos. You would rather choose Brock to fight?
Oh my God. See, that's scary because actually, you know what? No, I'm going to go
Gotta think about these things, Marco.
I'm going with Omos because Brock Lesnar's he's too fast.
Yeah, that's my thing. I could just run from Omos. Easy.
Yeah, true. Yeah, you can't run from Brock. He's that dude. Yeah. I've seen him sprint around the ring and
that's where the youth comes in. These youthful legs, these 20-year-old legs just get you going places. Look, we could talk about Omos versus Brock Lesnar forever. I would love to.
I can't
put
wait.
Jeff Jarrett as the referee, make Titus O'Neil make the match official. But there's only one thing left to say.
Hey, yo.
It's time to end the show. Folks, thank you so much for tuning in to yet another successful episode of the RAWDOWN. Marco, where the fuck could we find the Chick Foley Show?
You can find us chilling in our Facebook group. $2. You definitely gonna want to do it this time around. There's a lot of stuff popping up. In stores. We have a new Legend series is popping up everywhere. I'm seeing some Ultimate Edition Macho Mans and the NWO get up popping up in some Target. So there's plenty of eyes on our group. They can definitely find those. And obviously this week, Mattel Creations, the No Holds Barred 2-pack will be going live. And, there's going to be a lot of people on their computers and on their phones trying to buy 2 at a time just to, help out some. I'm going to try myself. I'm going to try to get 2. Help somebody out in the group if I can.
Put yourself first, Marco. Get one for yourself, and then we'll get another one.
You have to. I mean, you got to try. You got to try to do it.
You have to try, but make sure you get one.
So definitely join the group. We'll definitely help you out there. Pod Foundation on IG. Follow that to get all the updates on everything. Pod Foundation, obviously, you know what that is. It's Turnbuckle Tavern, Coming Down the Aisle, Chick Foley Show, Extra Cooler Show. The newly added Nick Storm, which is he got added to our
Nick Storm got it. Who the fuck let Storm in there?
Did you see? You haven't been following the group. Yeah, Nick Storm is added to the Pod Foundation group.
Wow.
So so he's a new addition. So if you love Nick Storm, definitely follow the Pod Foundation. So this Sunday we will be recording. We're waiting for all the SDCC hype to die down, and this upcoming Sunday we'll be recording a SDCC recap for the Chick Foley Show. So look out for that. Probably Monday that'll be dropping. Obviously follow me on the Twitter machine, Chick Foley Show. Follow Sheen on IG at Chick Foley. You can follow me at the MVP Marco on IG, and that's all I had. I should say. Yeah.
You can also find, we got to give him a plug, comedowntheaislepod.com for all of J-Bone's content that he has coming his way.
Yep. Jarrett. J-Bone Jarrett. I can't think of names like he does, so I tried. Sorry, Jay.
Yes, you can find everything at Coming Down the Aisle Pod. You can also find the Independent Epicenter. I'm returning with an episode next week for Invictus Pro, so stay on the lookout for that. I won't say what it is, but it's a cool little concept that I'm coming up with for them. So next week I should have a video out, so I'll be able to plug that for next week's episode of the RAWDOWN. You can follow me at Indie Epicenter on Twitter and Instagram. That support goes a long way. But folks, thank you so much for tuning into yet another edition of the RAWDOWN. If you like what you heard, I know that you did. Make sure to turn on over to the turnbuckletavern.com. You can listen to any and all Turnbuckle Tavern shows on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. You can see our beautiful faces on YouTube and Twitch. And you can follow us on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook to keep up and running with all of your tavern shows. Join the Discord because that is a group of amazing people with like-minded wrestling fandom that you should talk to and get to know and become one with the tavern. And you can buy our merch, Pro Wrestling Tees. That's Teespring. Sorry for audio listeners. Teespring over at theturnbuckletavern.com. You can get the official RAWDOWN logo on some merch, stickers, mugs. Get the Mr. Backlash shirt, which I love. Oh my God, I love that shirt. And then there it is, prowrestlingtees.com/tavern with your official RAWDOWN favorites. Hollywood Tony has a shirt, Boney Shivani, MVP Marco, Tom has a shirt. Everyone's got a shirt up there. A lot of inside jokes, and you should definitely check out all that is there. And finally, call the tavern 304-404-2004 to get your message played on the flagship show. Leave a message for the RAWDOWN, and we will definitely get back to you as soon as possible. If you love us or you hate us, make sure that you get your voice heard. Also, one last thing. Before our time, the first episode dropped last week on Friday. We discussed WrestleMania 1. We had a lot of hatred for Lord Alfred Hayes, and we have crowned Ricky Steamboat as the mayor of Back Suplex City. So you definitely want to check out everything that we have over at Before Our Time. New episode is this Friday for WrestleMania 2.
How do you hate Lord Alfred Hayes?
Oh, he's fucking horrendous. But anyway,
Lord Alfred Hayes.
Thank you, Gene. Listen, we got to run. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to tonight's episode. We will see you next week for our SummerSlam predictions. And until then, take care, spike your hair. Woo, woo, woo. You know it.